हाँ हाँ कर दूंगा. Well, so we are getting these visuals of President Putin arriving in Tianjin, and red carpet welcome has been extended to President Putin by the Chinese government. This is again a very important arrival ahead of the SCO summit. In fact, going by the information that we have, there's going to be the meeting between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi tomorrow. That's what we have been told. You know, and now over to you, Rahul. I think Rahul is connecting live with us from Tianjin. Rahul?
That's right. Thanks, Siddhant. Yes, footage on the screens, viewers. Important footage here of another important meeting that is going to sort of unfold here in Tianjin. That is going to be tomorrow. That's President Putin landing, and he's going to be meeting with Prime Minister Modi. That's going to be a bilateral. The one with the Chinese president is about 40-odd minutes long. This one we're still getting information on, but that will look forward to taking the already warm relationship with China, with Russia, to greater heights. Remember, this meeting is perhaps going to be very closely tracked in Washington because Mr. Trump has made it very clear to India through his various team members who have been quite intemperate in their approach to our relations with India's relations with Russia, suggesting that this has become Modi's war and that only Modi now can actually prevail upon Putin to pull back from Ukraine and declare some sort of a working ceasefire or a long-term peace agreement. But the point is that yesterday we had President Zelensky of Ukraine speak with Prime Minister Modi once again ahead of important round of meetings. Zelensky calls up the Prime Minister, urges the Prime Minister, of course, to use his good offices with President Putin to try and effect some kind of change of heart so that the Russians back down in Russia and in Ukraine, and there can be some progress in trying to bring peace in Europe. But that all, of course, is very interesting. But if you're an Indian, and if you are a patriotic Indian, you will ask yourself some fundamental questions, because the issues that have been framed by Washington reek of hypocrisy, because the Washington consensus there under Trump seems to suggest that at this moment it's India that is driving and fueling this war quite literally by buying Russian oil. But as you know, America is doing trade with Russia. Europeans are buying more quantity of oil than India is from Russia. There's also deep trade associations between Europe and Russia. Their trade relationship is much greater than the one that India has with Russia. So if you really look at it that way, the road through peace doesn't only run through New Delhi. We, of course, have a role to play in bringing about the two sides and can, of course, be a bridge link, but we certainly can't dictate the terms of the peace. And if we don't purchase oil, or if we purchase oil, it's not going to make a material difference, as long as, of course, China is also in Russia's corner. So it all adds up in an interesting threesome here, a triage which people are going to be looking at very closely from the West. But I just want to quickly toss to a walkthrough that I had done this morning, setting up the day and giving a bit of an overview of where I am and where we are with regards to the upcoming engagements and what they actually herald. So let's play that report out, that ground report that was filmed by me and VJ Devinder here. Very good morning from Tianjin. The stage is set. As you can see behind me is the big hall where this entire Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit is going to kick off in a few hours. This is where the big function in the evening is going to take place here in Tianjin. But more importantly, before that, we're going to have, of course, a meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping. A very important conversation there. The Indian tricolour is right next to the Chinese flag on this flagpole, and that sort of sends a big message out. The first headline from the China's People Daily is also about how President Xi Jinping is meeting with today the top leaders of the SCO, in particular Prime Minister Modi. Remember, the presence of India at the SCO is extremely critical. It lends a huge amount of credibility to the SCO because India is probably the only fully functional democracy, a democracy which is vibrant, a democracy where freedom of expression is not curtailed, a democracy where the people have the ultimate say. That is not quite true of most of the other states in the SCO, even though they might have pretensions of being functional democracies. So the meeting with Prime Minister Modi is extremely important to send a message that Xi wants to the rest of the world, that his position in the world is extremely robust. It's not isolated, that he is still part of a global order that recognizes, in fact, the legitimacy of China, and of course, a very important signal to the West as far as China is concerned, that the Chinese have a stake still in global affairs despite the tantrums of President Trump in Washington. But fundamentally for India, the takeaways are several. And the Chinese media, as you can see behind me, has been focusing on some of those takeaways. For India, it is important to also, of course, assert its own strategic as well as economic sovereignty at a time when Washington wants to constrict India, wants to force India into choosing camps.